Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
How you doing this morning?
Man, I'm feeling it. You know what I'm saying? Um, you know what I'm talking about. You get up in the morning, you gotta go do some work or something, and just like, yeah.
Yeah, I totally get it. I took yesterday off, as I think you know. And so coming into it this morning, I know that there's a lot of work I gotta get done because and that's the other thing we haven't talked about it, and we're not going to talk about it today because we have too many other things to talk about. But just getting to a place where nobody is a single point of failure and like work
Right.
doesn't wait for a person. um I think I often say that the fundamental of unit of engineering is a team, and so making sure that you have a team so that a person can be gone is really really important. um but anyways, there's that. You if you're feeling like the drain on having to go to work, maybe I should start by just asking, when are you planning to take your next vacation?
We come up to this time of year, and one thing that I always look forward to, so my kids are back in school,
Mm-hmm.
and it's more difficult to just disappear like in the
Yeah.
middle of the week. During the summer, you can just go, right? On a Wednesday, you can disappear. But one of the things I really look forward to, and I'm actually starting to plan, and it doesn't really require a lot of planning. It's just going to the beach, going and spending a night on the beach. So beach camping.
Yeah.
I love to do it when the weather cools off. So you know that this year here in Texas, we had like 100 plus degrees for like, I don't know how many days straight. It was just a lot.
Yeah.
Felt like we were in an oven for, for like an
My
extended period of
grass is
time.
like all dead because of it.
It's crunchy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, and so um, I enjoy going to Mustang Island
Yeah.
because it's one of Texas state parks, and so they keep it real clean and all that good stuff, and they allow beach camping. And so I enjoy going down there like in September, end of September slash October, because you can go beach camp and there's hardly nobody there. You can go and have a whole stretch of beach, probably about, quarter of a mile to half a mile, and you're the only one there spending the night. And it's great.
Yeah.
There's no lights. There's nothing to obstruct the stars or your view of the stars, right? So you can go out there. And we went out there last year, my son and a friend of ours, and we cooked on the beach. We had a fire. We spent the night, and that whole night, it was like you didn't want to go to sleep because you're just looking at the stars. It's just beautiful. And then you've got the ocean crashing, the waves crashing in every couple seconds, and it's just an amazing thing, right? And you can get away from tech. You can get away from all the screens. You can get away from all the noise. And the only thing you really hear is nature. And so it's really a relaxing thing. And so that's the one thing that I'm looking forward to. And again, I don't really have to do much planning for it. I can
Just
just
go.
say, yeah, here's a Friday. Let's go disappear.
Yeah, we're not there yet with the boys, but we want to be. I'll tell you that just briefly, Steph and I are super fond of Mustang Island as well. We haven't been since Steven was born, but we are very, very fond of Mustang Island. We used to go every summer. Another thing that we used to do, kind of leaning into what you'd said there at the end, or I say we used to do it, we did it once or twice, is, are you familiar with where Schulenburg, Texas is? Kind of in between here and Houston.
I'm familiar with it, but that's not somewhere I travel too often.
Yeah, and me either. It's kind of off the beaten path, and that's sort of the point. Is we found a ranch out there, or a farm, that just has a farm cabin on the premises, and there's no cell phone signal. There's electricity in the cabin, but there's not like a TV. There's like nothing, and so you can just go out there and you're completely unplugged, um, because there's you're unplugged, and there's something about just hanging out there for a weekend and getting away, and sort of being forced to go walk around the old barn and look at garden spiders, and that's because that's what your day is, or just lay around and play board games and stuff. There's a lot of value to that, man.
Yeah, it sounds like a great experience. I think, I've never been to where you're describing, but my kids would love it. I would love it. Probably not going to mention it here, so that way it doesn't get overwhelmed with people. Because we have a lot of listeners, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
I
but
didn't know we have a lot of listeners. We'll talk about that in a little bit, I guess.
yeah, no,
Um,
I'm exaggerating here.
yeah. Well, let me ask you one other kind of related question there. You mentioned y'all go to the beach every year. And I will put my cards down right at the start and say that I don't believe that we take enough breaks and vacation. And so I sort of want to ask you two questions there and just hear your feedback on them. And that's first, what is in your mind the ideal cadence of taking a vacation? And second, what do you think keeps you from like taking breaks more often? Like, what are the biggest factors there?
Yeah, me and my wife actually kind of talk about this periodically. We kind of bring this topic back to the surface every couple months, and um, I'm very much a person that needs a lot of change, and so I'll rearrange my office, my house. My wife knows this about me. I get to where things need to change constantly. I've also done that with jobs, unfortunately.
Not
But
unfortunately, you try a new thing.
I try new things, exactly. And I even think about this. I said, if I can just imagine that somewhere down my ancestry line, I was part of the Native Americans that were like nomadic. Like I just feel it in my blood. Like they moved a lot. They traveled. They didn't stay in one place too long, and I just feel it. But for me, that means doing something different quite often, including vacations. And when I say vacation, it's not necessarily like the 1 week long vacation or 2 week long vacation. No real rigor around it, but the idea that we go somewhere and we get away from the house for a little bit. So that being said, we've talked about the ideal cadence for us being at least once a quarter. So
Yeah.
every 3 months. So every 3 months we go somewhere, even if it's just to like a state park for a weekend or for
Hmm.
3 days. We do have a Disneyland coming up in November that we're going to. I've never been. My kids are excited. We kind of let them know. We were wanting to wait till later to let them know, but we were excited. We wanted them to be excited, and we
Yeah.
wanted to be able to start planning things. So that's coming up in November, and then we're also going camping in November, and then we're also going camping in December. And then in February, we're already thinking about going back to a cabin that we visited last year in Oklahoma. The idea being that there are these small vacations peppered throughout the year, really planning ahead. And what it comes down to is if you don't plan it, it doesn't happen,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
right? You can say, "Oh, we need to take a vacation. We haven't been on a vacation in a while." But if you don't plan it, it doesn't happen. So we got a little more proactive about it, and we said, where can we go? What can we do? And it depends on a lot of things. It depends on the season, the weather, how busy that place is going to be. I usually don't prefer to go and be around a lot of people.
Right.
So we chose to go to Disneyland at a time that was statistically off peak.
Hmm.
Um, when we go camping, there's times where there's nobody camping around us at Garner State Park.
Oh, that's
We'll
such a
have,
great place to park to
yeah,
or to camp. Garner's beautiful.
yeah. It's only like 2.5 hours from our house, and so we pack up and we go and we'll spend like 3 days to a whole week there. And but again, we started planning these things. We started building our like loadout for camping, that kind of thing. And when you do that, it encourages you to use your gear, right? Otherwise,
Yeah.
your gear is just sitting in the garage. So we won't go camping during the summertime because it's just too hot to be in a tent.
Right.
We haven't yet decided to pull the trigger on like a camper or anything. So right now it is just our tent. So we'll go camping during the cooler season. So like November, December. At the very latest, we'll go camping in March.
Yeah. It's good that you're talking about like camping and getting out in the green. You know me and research. I love to read research and especially the cadence that you're talking about. One of the things that really struck me a few years back when my first son was first born, and I was reading about this specifically because whenever he would just get unwound, completely unwound, you know how infants are, we would take him outside and like with the trees and where I was living, you remember that little half acre lot on downtown kind of, and then we had a bunch of trees in the backyard, and he would just that would help him relax. And so I was like, there's got to be a connection here, and it turns out that there is. That like if a person gets out into a green space once a month, there are studies that show that this makes us happier, healthier. It lowers our stress. It improves our metabolism just from being out in a green space. And so like that's a big win. That's such a good advantage. Of course, Steph and I are very excited. Now our youngest has turned 1, and that makes life a little easier for traveling. He's really taking to solid. So we're hoping to be able to go on vacation soon. Um, this is good. Good stuff.
Yeah, my kids are older now. They're 12 and 7, and we it's interesting. We were kind of in the same. Well, we were in a similar boat not too long ago. It's difficult traveling with an infant.
Yeah.
You can't go for so long, etc. Today, we can sit in the car on a drive for a couple hours now, and we'll stop to stretch our legs and stuff. But it's just so much easier. You kind of start to look forward to it, and so it's not that you can't go places now. I mean, that's not the case, but it's just it becomes easier, and then your kids also can remember those things and they can enjoy it.
Right. Like I think the full stretch that we would be willing to go right now, and we haven't yet, and we are planning on it, is to go to Corpus, not even Mustang Island, just Corpus, because it's about an hour and a half. If we time it right, we could go on like the little one's nap and the old one, the older like the a morning nap and be there for most of the day and then drive back at night. But going somewhere further afield or even like flying. I don't know how y'all are planning on going to Disneyland if y'all are going to drive or not. But flying right now with the little one is still kind of an iffy proposition for us.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. We could talk about flying with an infant or even with just kids for like an hour because we've done that in the past when our kids were smaller. Some kids take to it fine. Other kids like it really freaks them out and they'll be crying the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe their ears are popping and they're not, they've never experienced that before. There's times where I'll have like a massive headache from the takeoff, from the air. And so I can imagine what that's like for a kid. And so when we're going to Disney, we did the math, and if we were to fly, it would eat into like our budget, the max we're trying to spend. It would eat into
Right.
it a whole bunch.
Yeah.
So we said, you know what? With me and my wife driving, we can rotate. We're going to stay one hotel along the way, and we're going to rotate. Our vehicle's fairly reliable, so we're not worried about having to like stop and rest the vehicle or anything like that.
Right.
So, and it's big enough that we can have everybody fairly comfortable, snacks and drinks and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and be able to drive for at least 2 hours straight.
Nice. The one of the things that we've talked about recently is that I found this out a little while back, and that's that you can take a train basically from here out to San Francisco, and it goes through like Salt Lake City and Colorado. I'm like, I don't know if we've ever talked about this. I'm not a huge fan of driving. I don't love it anymore like I used to when I was younger. So I tend to fly most places. But with the kids, that's not really an option. So we've thought about taking like a train and just being able to stop over. And because the cool thing is like if you have these tickets, certain kinds of tickets, you can like it's not like you have to just ride straight through. You can get off in Colorado and stay for a few days, and then get back on the next train that goes to Utah, and then so on and so forth. So you can actually stop and stay in those towns a little bit, which is kind of cool. Um,
Yeah, I think the hardest part, or the thing that I always think about, is like being without a vehicle. Like if I need to go from the hotel to the doctor all of a sudden, or I need to go to
yeah,
Walgreens to get a medicine. If you're not staying at a place that's super close, then you might end up having to walk a great deal, and you don't know the location, right? You don't know the area,
yeah,
and then or you're having to spend money on an Uber. And so sometimes this really just comes down to the convenience, right? Is that I can travel with what I want,
yeah.
versus like if you're taking a train or an airplane, you're limited. Hey, two carry-ons or whatever. There's and then everybody's dragging this thing, and that was one of the reasons that when we did, purchase our most recent vehicle, it was
Yeah.
a larger SUV kind of thing to account for these types of scenarios.
Yeah, and similarly, we haven't bought one yet, but we're in the same market. Well, awesome. I wanted to start by just talking about vacations because I know we both probably need one. And so, yeah.